The following is a presentation of the Pro Wrestling Report. Informative, entertaining, and real since 1998.
Welcome to the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime here on My24 Milwaukee. Damian Nelson with David Hero. And just going off the air, Ring of Honor Wrestling. A lot of wrestling action tonight and a lot of notable things on that episode. Not only were the tag team champions in action, but we saw the announcement of the matchup to occur at Final Battle on December 23rd. It is Eddie Edwards going after Davey Richards' World Championship. And the last time those two tore it up, they tore it up in what is a Match of the Year candidate.
The rubber match coming to New York City.
On December 23rd,
Talk about a hot crowd, a hot match, going to be a whole lot of shenanigans more than likely. I have a hard time buying these two guys are going to have that code of honor intact the entire match.
They are friends, they are the American Wolves, and they will team up next week on Ring of Honor television in action going into this big matchup.
And isn't that how they always do it? Tag team partners before the big match.
Yes.
They've done it with Austin and Shawn Michaels. They've done it with Rock and Triple H. Cena and The Rock even now. Here we go. It's going to be a big-time event.
Kevin Steen wants back into Ring of Honor Wrestling. We gave you a little backstory last week about how we got there. Ring of Honor is going to do that for you again next week. But tonight we saw Kevin Steen has lawyers, and they're forcing Ring of Honor's hand to bring him back in and give him a shot again in Ring of Honor Wrestling.
He's already there. If they didn't want him, they wouldn't give him the TV time, right?
It was a videotape delivered to the offices.
Well, and they aired it. Go figure, huh? Kevin Steen.
I think they're handling this perfectly, this whole Kevin Steen thing, because they're leaving enough out where you want to know more about it.
And also, you're not going to like this guy.
Absolutely, not at all.
So he's going to come back on TV.
Kill Steen,
and
kill.
hate it, yeah.
And a proving ground matchup, the world's greatest tag team, wrestling's greatest tag team in action, of course, dominating in that matchup and winning. A solid effort from Ring of Honor Wrestling tonight, but there is so much more going on in the world of professional wrestling, including the Muppets hosting Raw this past Monday night, a new TNA World Impact Wrestling Heavyweight Champion, and footage from this past Monday's costume party from the Pro Wrestling Report and our live broadcast on 540 ESPN. We're going to talk about all that and the history book, looking back at the Survivor Series, still to come right here next on the Pro Wrestling Report, Primetime Television.
This is the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime TV, the longest-running pro wrestling news program in the world, with your hosts, David Hero and Damian Nelson.
Hello fans, Damian Nelson here along with David Hero, and it's time, David, to go right to our top story. And as you saw last Thursday night on Impact Wrestling, there is yet again a new TNA World Heavyweight Champion, a shocking turn of events.
It's the new TNA World Impact Wrestling Heavyweight Champion.
A shocking turn of events in Macon, Georgia on Impact last Thursday night. Bobby Roode is now the TNA World Heavyweight Champion. I'm sorry, TNA Impact Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion after defeating James Storm in that main event this past Thursday night on Impact Wrestling. Why didn't they just do this at Bound for Glory?
Because they wanted to give a little more flavor to Bobby Roode. Bobby Roode wins as the good guy. There's not a whole lot of oomph behind him, I guess you could say. But now the fans are hot about it because he screwed over his good, close personal friend.
Took a beer bottle to the head of James Storm, did Bobby Roode, thus causing that win, and James Storm suffering from a concussion.
Maybe now James Storm will start using cans.
There's a difference in the taste, you know.
But it won't hurt as much either.
Was this angle hot-shotted? Meaning, 3 weeks have passed since Bound for Glory. And you've got what was one of the greatest tag teams in your organization, Beer Money, that has now split up and are now feuding for the World Championship. All that happened over the course of really 3 weeks' time. This seems like it could have expanded out 3 months, maybe 6 months, and we could have built towards something as opposed to boom, 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 literally, Roode wins the title, turns on his friend.
Yeah, you'd think that they could have had James Storm and Bobby Roode have like the Paul Orndorff Hulk Hogan turn.
Yeah.
Back when, you know, Orndorff and Hogan were missing each other's phone calls. And then eventually it was on a Challenger Superstars when Orndorff clotheslined Hogan and pile drove him right in front of Bundy and Studd. Build it up slowly like that over some time. Give it a little more, like I said, flavor, if you will.
Speaking of time, in 2011 so far, the TNA World Impact Wrestling Heavyweight Championship has changed hands several times. We started out the year with Ken Anderson as champion, then Jeff Hardy was champion, then Sting was champion, Kurt Angle, and then just in the last several weeks, James Storm, Bobby Roode. Is this title's value at all in jeopardy because of all these title changes? And when you look at some of the controversy surrounding these title changes, it makes it that much more of a question.
Not really, because it's a prop.
The World Championship is a prop.
It's a prop in every wrestling company.
It hasn't always been.
Okay, if you go back to when John Cena and Edge kept flip-flopping the belt back and forth, even the Attitude Era where it was Rock, Austin, Triple H, Mankind, Triple H, Rock, Austin, Mankind. It was every other week it was a new champion.
I think you're exaggerating. It was not every other week.
They are trying to find the right character, the right situation to put, you know, their World Championship on.
But you find that person first and then build to that championship title win.
Listen, they had it on Sting for a while because it made sense.
180 days, I think Sting had it.
Yes, and it made sense. And then they put it on Kurt Angle, which was completely out of the blue.
76 or so days, I think he had it. But those are the two longest reigns.
And those were two established guys. And that didn't work. Right?
I think Sting worked. I think Angle worked because of...
No. You have to put the TNA World Impact Wrestling Heavyweight Championship on a guy that's going to work house shows. Sting and Kurt Angle, as the world champion, was not working house shows. People go to house shows to see the stars that are on TV. They're not going there.
That's been a long-standing issue with TNA Wrestling.
But now maybe they're going in that right direction. Bobby Roode works almost every house show, and now that he's the World Impact Wrestling Champion, he can be there.
Does this story, which will continue over the course of the next few weeks upon James Storm's return, actually continues next week on Impact, but does this story have any more oomph to it? Does it have any buy-in capability from the fans to get behind either James Storm or Bobby Roode?
Right now, Bobby Roode is proving that the TNA World Impact Heavyweight Championship means more than anything. Means more than friendship, means more than anything in the world to him, and that's why he was cheating to win.
You, me, many others were upset by the fact that Bobby Roode didn't win at Bound for Glory, yet you started this segment saying that maybe that's not the way they should have gone anyways. They built everything towards a Bobby Roode win at Bound for Glory.
Because as much as I like Bobby Roode, he has one emotion, that's angry. Now he's that evil, angry, untrustworthy, snake in the grass guy. They added more to the character of Bobby Roode.
And Bobby Roode is the new TNA World Heavyweight Champion. It happened this past Thursday night on Impact. Still to come here on the Pro Wrestling Report, we've got WWE news, TNA news, and more. Pro Wrestling Report continues here on My24 Milwaukee.
Horny Goat Expose, our farmhouse ale. This is a session beer in the truest sense of the word, brewed with American churro malts and wheat and some oats that give it a really great creaminess, but it's just well balanced, and this beer goes down dangerously easy. You know, on a personal note, this beer actually means a lot to me. I remember being a young boy growing up in Amish country, riding on my pet goat through the oat fields, just looking around at the beauty of the oats and the wheats, and just thinking, someday I'm gonna grow up and I'm gonna make a beer with all these, and I'm gonna name it after my pet goat that I called Horny.
Hello, this is Jeff Hardy, the Charismatic Enigma, and you're watching the Pro Wrestling Report on My24 Milwaukee.
Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime right here on My24 Milwaukee. It's time to talk about this week's headlines brought to you by PWRshow.com. And the first one is a story that broke this past Tuesday, and that is another wellness policy violation and suspension in World Wrestling Entertainment. The star this time is one half of the WWE Tag Team Champions. Evan Bourne has been suspended for 30 days due to a wellness policy violation. David, he joins the names of Darren Young and Heath Slater, who've also been recently suspended. And if you go a little further back, you're even talking about Sin Cara as well.
What's up with all these high flyers, I guess you could say, in the company?
The rumor that's going around is that there is a synthetic version of a drug that many people take, and it's the synthetic nature of this drug.
Many people take illegal drugs?
Yes, this particular one, marijuana being the key.
Okay.
And the synthetic key element to this version of marijuana is what's causing these wellness policy violations. So there's a difference between, I guess, regular marijuana and this particular kind of marijuana as the way the policy is written in WWE. Regardless of all that, one half of the Tag Team Champions suspended for 30 days. And David, I thought there was a 30-day clause for champions to have to defend their title.
Well, he has 30 days. He's suspended for 30 days.
He didn't defend him on Raw.
Well, but
it's more than 30
days. It's all about the details with you, isn't it?
Well, it's 30 days. You have to defend your championship
let's not forget,
once every 30
Kofi
days.
is on Team Nelson. You don't want him to drop a title, do you? You should be happy about this.
I'm very happy about it. I'm just asking the question. That's what I do here.
You're causing problems.
Evan Bourne on Twitter says the following in response to the announcement by WWE of his suspension. And I quote, "Love you guys. I'll be back in a flash. Air Boom will not
in a flash
be derailed." So Evan Bourne commenting on that, and we'll see what happens. Heath Slater should be returning soon. Darren Young shortly after Heath Slater is back.
Darren Young hasn't even been on TV for him to be missed.
Exactly. Mike Chioda, the referee, also suspended recently for wellness policy violation.
Weren't you with him?
Not at that time, no. And not necessarily a wellness policy violation, but some health issues plaguing some veterans in wrestling right now. The first of which being Barry Windham, who you all know very well from his time in WCW, his time as the Widowmaker, if you will, in WWE as well.
I don't think he wants to, go back that far.
And had teamed with Mike Rotunda, former tag team champion in WWE, and suffering from either a stroke or a heart attack earlier or late last weekend.
The son of Blackjack Mulligan.
Absolutely, and that's the person who broke the news that Barry Windham had suffered and was in critical condition in the intensive care unit. Luckily, Barry now seemingly better, and we'll keep you updated as to his health and the update as to where he stands. The other one, David, is Jacques Rougeau.
The Mountie.
And you definitely remember him. Remember that matchup at, I think it was a SummerSlam with the Big Boss Man where he got carted off to jail?
The loser had to spend a night in jail.
And suffering from...
He had a cattle prod.
Yeah, he did. From a prostate issue, at one point rumored to potentially be cancerous. That is unknown at this time for sure, but definitely wishing the best to Jacques Rougeau, one half of the Rougeau brothers.
Isn't that when Boss Man cattle prodded him at SummerSlam?
Possibly. Maurice has been released from World Wrestling Entertainment. This news broke last weekend, and Maurice has departed and split ways with WWE, and she has commented on her release as well. She said the following via Twitter after the announcement by World Wrestling Entertainment. "I'm out, and sexier than ever. Thanks to all my fans, colleagues, and WWE Universe. Time to party." That announces that she's having a release party. She then went on to say in another tweet, David Hero, "I'm happy, I'm smiling, and free. Now it's time to get naughty. Be sexy." Maurice gone from WWE. A lot of fans not happy about that.
Well, now she gets to spend more time at home with her boyfriend, The Miz. That's awesome.
For him, it definitely is. And we want to let you know that you can go to PWRshow.com, read more on all these headlines that we just discussed, including much, much more, and some details on what happened at Raw this past Monday night. And we'll talk, of course, about WWE Raw later on in this program. But David Hero, this past Monday night, we were at Karma Bar and Grill, 600 East Ogden, for the PWR Halloween and costume party. And
shenanigans.
Some amazing costumes showing up. I mean, we had Gumby there. The Average Joe Kerwin White. They were all finalists, along with EY, Eric Young.
Eric Young was even there.
Linda Kay was a little vampire, and as you see from the footage, some fun times had down at Karma. We'll be back there again this Monday night for a live broadcast on 540 ESPN for the Pro Wrestling Report Radio. You can come on down and watch WWE Raw with us in the PWR Lounge at Karma and join in all the festivities. Some of the people joining us last week got a chance to be live on the radio with us right there at Karma.
Making people famous, Damian Nelson.
Karma located 600 East Ogden and Jackson. And you can join us starting during Raw this upcoming Monday night and be a part of the Pro Wrestling Report. Let's go on to this week's Star of the Week.
Once again, it's time for the PWR Star of the Week, and let me tell you, Super Friends, it was not easy picking somebody this week. On one side, on the Raw brand, you have Zack Ryder getting the big woo-woo-woo victory over Dolph Ziggler, and then on TNA Impact Wrestling, the new TNA World Impact Wrestling Heavyweight Champion Bobby Roode defeats his good, close personal friend James Storm. We can't have a tie, so I got to pick one. And without a shadow of a doubt, it is Beaker. Yes, that's right, the Muppet Beaker, the guy who helped Santino Marella defeat Jack Swagger, is your PWR Star of the Week.
Wait a minute. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Did you... I was talking to the interns. Did you really, in this Star of the Week segment, pick a Muppet as a Star of the Week?
You know,
a Muppet is better than James Storm. A Muppet is better than Dolph Ziggler. A Muppet is better than the new TNA champion, Bobby. You know what? This segment has just lost all of its credibility. Enjoy. Just go right ahead. Why don't you finish up and continue to explain why you picked these people?
Once again, Beaker, the PWR Star of the Week.
Still to come here on the Pro Wrestling Report, we go back into the history book looking at the Survivor Series. We also talk about TNA and the new TNA World Champion, Bobby Roode. This is the Pro Wrestling Report, which continues right after this.
Everybody, I'm Sunny, the original diva of the WWE and 2011 WWE Hall of Famer, and you're watching Pro Wrestling Report on My 24.
Welcome back to the Pro Wrestling Report. Damian Nelson sitting alongside David Hero, and it's time to talk about WWE, and you definitely got to start with this past Monday's episode of Raw, which was guest starred by the Muppets.
Kermit the Frog, Miss Piggy, Beaker, Bunsen Honeydew, Animal.
It was a fun episode of Raw. You know, it was Halloween. A lot of people had a lot to say going into it, but I think the execution, as it happened this past Monday night, was very well done.
Well, they had Muppets. You know, what are you
and that statement in and of itself. Muppets.
It's Muppets.
The Muppets.
Yeah, they can't be in the ring. You can't see them from the waist down. Beaker's a stud. You know, he's Sheamus' cousin, you know.
We did learn that apparently on Raw this past Monday night.
Who would have thought?
The overall feedback that we got from you out there, though, on Raw Monday night was poor. Not many of you liking the Muppets or the content on Raw. And David, I think one point that we made on the radio show this past Monday night on 540 ESPN, at the end of the day, on Raw, while we did have 2 matches made for the Survivor Series, nothing happened.
It was very flat. It was very uneventful. With the exception of Kermit and Miss Piggy, there wasn't a whole lot going on. If you missed this past Monday on Raw, you didn't miss anything.
The Rock accepts the challenge to join John Cena against The Miz and R-Truth. We're going to talk about that whole scenario with The Rock and John Cena in our 5 More Minutes segment, which is available online, on demand, pwrshow.com. The online extended version of the Pro Wrestling Report will talk more about The Rock's promo and why it came off as a bit of a dud this past Monday night. What we didn't see that we were promised this past Monday night was the confrontation, the challenge being accepted by good old Jim Ross of Michael Cole.
Are you really complaining about that?
I am complaining about it because I'm still looking at the end of that story, which is Michael Cole losing this challenge and Jim Ross getting back into the broadcast position on Raw for the sanity of all of us.
But how can you mix Cole and JR with Piggy and Kermit?
Well, the story is that the segment was, while one of the primary pieces of Raw this past Monday night, there wasn't enough time for it, given all the Muppets shenanigans and everything else going on. So don't know if we're going to see it next week, but it was sold as JR cowardly did not attend, but JR made sure everybody knew who follows him on Twitter that he was there.
Which now you almost have to feel that JR is going to beat Michael Cole. Because why would they have JR be cowardly and then lose to Cole? That's character assassination.
Well, they're good at that in WWE. The Greatest Rivalries DVD featuring the story between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels came out earlier this week. Got a chance to take a look at that, and David Hero, it was an interesting 2-hour-long conversation between Jim Ross, Bret Hart, and Shawn Michaels. They went very far behind the curtain. However, they left some time periods out, and seemingly each man was still serving their own needs in this discussion. But you got to give them credit for discussing that whole screw job, if you will, from 1997. And both men took responsibility for Montreal. But Shawn Michaels made it a point to say that it was all started by Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Those two guys sat down for one reason and one reason only. They got paid. That's why they talked about it.
I think you give too much value to people who do stuff for money. I think that this is something that needed closure. While, of course, they did get paid for it.
They've all done plenty of interviews about it.
In the DVD, they spoke about the reasons why they did this.
If this wasn't about money, then it would have been for free on television.
It's not primarily about money. It was these two men sitting in the same room for the first time ever with cameras being asked questions about not only Montreal, but the whole situation that led up to it. And they answered those questions very candidly and very vividly. And I think that both men, because there were several emotional moments during the interview as well, I think both men got something out of it much more than the paycheck that they ultimately got out of it. And Bret Hart spoke about that whole issue as well within the context of the conversation. What was very key, though, is, as I said, a lot of blame put on Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and Bret Hart having no blame to lay on Earl Hebner, who sells T-shirts now at TNA events that says, "Yeah, I did it."
See, even he's making money on this thing.
We're going to talk more about the Montreal screw job and more in the history book segment, which is coming up next. Well, David, we talked about Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, and as we go into the history book this week, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about what happened some 14 years ago this weekend.
14 years ago?
Indeed. It was the Montreal event Survivor Series in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, 1997, where the infamous screw job happened. And remember, we would get screw jobs on the subsequent Survivor Series as well. But this one was Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels. And you know many of the details, including the fact that going into this pay-per-view, Bret Hart was leaving WWE. He had been forced out of his contract, had signed a new deal with WCW, reportedly at about $3 million a year, and was not going to lose that championship in Canada to Shawn Michaels on that night, on that stage. So Vince McMahon decided that Bret Hart would be stripped of that title in some very controversial fashion in the middle of that ring during the main event.
Watching that pay-per-view live, I was like, oh my gosh, that's where shenanigans officially started. When Vince McMahon, and you had the Hebner, and then you had Pat Patterson and Briscoe and Triple H and Shawn Michaels and Chyna, everybody, British Bulldog, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, Owen Hart.
Security. I mean, there was a near riotous situation during that pay-per-view.
It was a riot. Did you see the loogie that was hawked on Vinnie Mac?
Bret Hart was screwed. But the question that still lies to this day is who screwed Bret? Did Vince McMahon screw Bret? Did Bret screw Bret? Did Shawn Michaels screw Bret? Or did Hunter Hearst Helmsley screw Bret?
Let's not forget
who screwed
Sonny.
Bret? Sunny Days?
Absolutely.
The launch, the Survivor Series launched so much in WWE, including what I think was the ultimate reason WWE started winning the ratings war against WCW again some 6 months later, because not only was the Attitude Era truly launched during that event as a consequence of that event, but also the Mr. McMahon character that we have since grown to love to hate.
The Attitude Era, as far as I'm concerned, ushered in reality TV, because they brought real life stuff from the back out to the front for the whole world to see.
And what's fascinating is that was never the goal. If everyone had played along nicely, not just Bret Hart, But if everyone had played along nicely, we wouldn't be where we are today in professional wrestling, because that era would not have evolved the way it did on that night from an unplanned event.
So thank you, Vince.
Thank you, Brett. This has been the History Book, looking back at the Survivor Series 1997. The Pro Wrestling Report continues here on My 24 when it's time to talk about TNA Impact. And while we did talk about the brand new TNA Impact World Heavyweight Wrestling Champion, that is Bobby Roode, a lot more happened on Impact this past Thursday night, including the return of the Jersey Shore to TNA Wrestling. It was Ronnie this time, and Robbie E., Rob Terry, and Eric Young also involved. We now see that there's going to be a tag team match next week, but where does it go from here? Does it do what it should do, which is give us much more Eric Young, give us much more Robbie E. and Rob Terry?
What it does do is it gets TNA Impact Wrestling on E. It gets them on
That's
extra.
not going to happen.
You don't think Ronnie's going to...
Did it work with JWoww?
Absolutely.
I don't recall seeing
It'll
a
be on
moment of
TMZ.
coverage. I don't recall. Great.
You love TMZ. But you know what? They're going to try to get some more publicity out of it. But you know what? How about Robbie E. and Big Rob Terry? What a great entrance.
The velvet rope.
It might be one of the best entrances in all of wrestling right now.
Better than Garrett Bischoff's entrance?
That is ridiculous. There's no reason to have Bischoff and his kid feuding on TV. You know what? Take them out back behind the woodshed.
So
doesn't belong on TV right now.
There was no reason for Vince and Shane and Stephanie to feud?
It's completely different. Shane McMahon was
got
a larger
the guy
than
running
life,
the company.
Shane McMahon is a larger than life personality. He was established.
Eventually he was.
But when they had the feud, he meant something. Okay, Shane McMahon was a part owner of the company. Garrett Bischoff is a referee.
Was.
Yeah.
Can't he mean something?
No. He's never done. No. Please take that off TV. You hear that, don't you? Tick.
I hear
tick,
that.
Tick. Boom.
You're still saying TNA is going to be out of business in a year?
If they go that route, absolutely.
I don't get it. It's okay for the McMahons, not okay for Bischoff. It's that TNA hate that stays out there, that people just frown on everything they do.
No, you cannot. That's like comparing Coca-Cola to, I don't know, some generic soda.
This has been the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime on My 24 Milwaukee. The conversation about this and many other things continues online. 5 more minutes. Our extended version of the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime available at our website, pwrshow.com. For David Hero, this is Damian Nelson saying thank you so much for tuning in. Well, David, we're going to, hope you're ready. You got your little notes there.
I'm reading
got your
my
little
notes.
moose in your hair.
I got my run sheet here.
5 more minutes, an extension of the Pro Wrestling Report Primetime. What we ended the show with was talking about this whole Bischoff situation, and I'm speculating that a lot of this is wrapped up in just natural hatred that those people have for TNA. You are one of them.
I don't hate TNA. I enjoy
Clearly
TNA.
you do. You've put a time clock on the company's survival.
When you end, like last week, when you ended your program with a father and a son fighting on TV, that people, if you go through the
real life drama.
No, it's not. They don't know who Garrett Bischoff is.
That was explained
2 weeks ago, but still.
Hey, that's enough time to put a championship belt on Bobby Roode.
Bobby Roode is a legitimate athlete. He is a
How do you know Garrett Bischoff
superstar.
is not? He's not a wrestling superstar as Garrett Bischoff, but maybe he's got some. I mean, he's listed on the Impact Wrestling roster page.
Is it Bischoff ego that thinks he has to make his son a star?
Isn't Eric Bischoff the same guy that allowed Buff Bagwell's mom to be on a pole?
No, that was Vince Russo.
Who was running the company?
I don't know.
Eric Bischoff.
Harvey Schiller? It doesn't make a difference. Get your kid off of TV. You know what? Here's my problem with that. I'm willing to bet you right now that Garrett Bischoff gets a bigger paycheck than half the roster on TNA. Guys that have busted their butt.
That's speculative.
I'm willing to bet he gets paid more than half the roster. It's going to cause a lot of dissension in that locker room. Morale's already
because he's
bad.
getting TV time, whereas some other people may not be.
Bromigo, let me explain this to you. The TNA pay-per-view is a little over a week away.
Turning Point
Turning
is about a
Point.
week away, yes.
There are certain TNA wrestlers that are sitting at home right now that have no idea if they're even going to be on that pay-per-view or not.
Okay. We don't know if Garrett's going to be on that pay-per-view.
He knows she's going to be there. He knows. He
travels with his papa.
But I'm just saying, when the talent that is the ones that are out there doing the house shows, the ones that are on the road, taking the bumps, training, saying your prayers, eating your vitamins, gym, tan, laundry, the whole kind of thing, and they're getting on the back burner for Eric Bischoff's kid. Now, I don't know Eric Bischoff's kid. I'm sure he's a great guy. Okay? I'm sure he is. Does not belong to be in a top spot on a wrestling company right now.
He wrestles, correct?
He's going to have to.
He's a young talent, correct?
They are going to ruin the product by going this route. You have far more...
Just because he's Bischoff's son?
No, because of the placement of where they're putting this.
Last week...
This is mid-card at best.
Right.
Not anywhere upper mid-card to main event to headliner. Not even close. But you know what? You like that stuff. You enjoy it. You guys hang out backstage and
all I asked was
shuffle knuckle
at
thing.
its core, what's the difference between Eric Bischoff having a family struggle on a wrestling program and Vince McMahon and the McMahon family having a family struggle on a wrestling program? That's the question.
It's a big difference. It's like the Kennedys.
At their core.
It's like the Kennedys.
At their core.
And the Psychowskis. Big difference.
At its core, it's the same general story, which has proven successful in the wrestling business in the past, correct?
No, not this way. They're not invested.
I'm peeling off names. I'm looking at the core story being family drama and dissension, and what do wrestling fans generally gravitate to? That they think is real. Now, I will also say that this is the same company that thought we cared about the real-life issues between Jeff Jarrett and Kurt Angle and Karen Angle and the kids and the whole real-life situation with Jeff Hardy and his drug problem. This is the same company that thought we cared about that. So I'm not saying that this Bischoff thing is the right way to go. I'm simply
yes, you are.
Asking the question. I'm simply asking the question.
You're antagonizing.
What's the difference?
Ratings. One company gets a 3-point-something, the other one's up.
You can't. They're not on the same night. They're not in competition. Thursday nights are very different from Monday nights. You're going to be that. You're going to be that fan out there. Oh, look at TNA's ratings compared to. Okay, great. Look at the Simpsons ratings compared to.
Stop. You know what? Here's how I'm going to compare it. TNA house show draws 600 people.
In Bemidji, Minnesota. Not
Sacramento,
Minneapolis,
California.
Minnesota. Outside of Sacramento, California.
It doesn't matter. That's the problem.
It does matter. They're going to the wrong places. We've talked about this.
I go to Waukesha, Wisconsin, and we'll draw 1,500 people. That's not Milwaukee.
But that's different. You're only marketing to Milwaukee and Waukesha, Wisconsin.
Well, when they hit these markets, that's who they should be marketing to.
We talked about this in the in-depth segment on TNA Wrestling, how to fix their live event business.
You're frustrating me right now.
I'm simply saying that everything is so cut and dry and easy and TNA's doing wrong.
They are doing wrong.
But WWE has many times done the same. What if the Muppets would have hosted Impact? Granted, a lot of WWE fans didn't like it anyways.
Nobody would have seen it.
But what if the Muppets would have hosted Impact? What if they would have had this big return promo and the guy was there only on a screen, much like The Rock this past Monday night?
Here's why the Muppets would never host Impact. Impact is not family friendly. They cannot have Miss Piggy out there with Karen Angle calling people prostitutes.
That's the proper use of the word, though.
Well, I'm just
better
saying.
Than saying whore,
right?
Or trollop, or tramp, or slut.
I'm just saying. It's two different products.
The Rock returned to WWE Raw this past Monday night, and he did so via satellite, but...
what? Oh, see, no, whoa.
That's what they say?
Okay, but now... I criticized TNA, and I'm like
all I did was
else,
just report the news. I said, and he did so via satellite.
What's he going to do? Where were they again?
They were in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay, why would he want to go to Atlanta?
Why wouldn't he want to go to Atlanta?
He was just there for WrestleMania.
The ATL, Hotlanta, as he calls it.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not. Kermit the Frog's there. Come on, they can't have two big movie stars.
This is really happening. Right before our very eyes, this is happening. You sat here for 5 minutes and buried TNA, and now you're defending WWE.
No, I'm not.
You realize
I'm defending The Rock for not being there.
All I did was report the fact that was he or was he not there via satellite? He was there via satellite.
Why'd you have to even make that point? Why can't you
because
just say
the point I was getting to,
promo?
the point that I was getting to, as it says here on the run sheet, no real news, and the way they presented it placed more emphasis on the fact that it was via satellite. Next question: do these remote appearances make his live appearances that much better?
Absolutely.
That's what I was getting at.
Absolutely. People want to see The Rock. They want to be electrified. You can't be electrified via satellite, as you say.
It was the way they presented it, though. I don't want to see the crowd watching The Rock on the big screen. No? Just show us.
No, but you want to see the emotion.
There was none. These people didn't care.
No, well, yeah.
I think they thought they were going to see The Rock.
You know what they thought when the show started? You know, there's all that big pre-tape stuff on the big screen, okay? They probably thought that was just a pre-tape. They probably didn't know the show was actually starting. They were still getting their popcorn and hot dogs. You know,
I don't remember.
Little Jimmy was getting his, what do you call it, cotton candy and, a large diet soda.
Regardless of how it was presented, the whole thing fell a little flat because you already knew The Rock was going to be wrestling at the Survivor Series, and you may have already known that he was going to be teaming up with John Cena.
But that's only 10% of people knew that.
No. He's on the poster, and WWE had said in video form on their programming before that The Rock returns to the ring and teams with John Cena for the first time ever.
Oh, really?
Before last week.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, they weren't paying attention.
So it was anticlimactic.
We're still talking about Bischoff?
You are. I've moved on.
Okay.
John Cena. A question that was brought up this past Monday night on the radio show is, when is this inevitable heel turn going to happen? When is John Cena going to become a bad guy? And as we talked about on the radio show this past Monday night, I'm not sure I see it happening, but I'm intrigued as to why so many people want to see it happen.
Because they want something different. But to answer your question, who are the baby faces right now on Raw?
Well, there's The Miz.
No, baby faces, the good guys. The good guys.
I thought you asked who was endorsed.
You got Bourne and Kofi.
Well, Kofi.
You got CM Punk and Santino and Sheamus.
But it's a super show.
Well, Sheamus is on SmackDown.
But it's a super show.
But that's fine. It's the super show. But when they do the Raw house shows, they need baby faces. So if they turn John Cena heel, they better have 3 baby faces additional to pick up the slack. And they don't have that right now.
Everyone wants this heel turn. A lot of people want this heel turn. 2 reasons, the one you just gave. And the other reason is all the money WWE makes off of a good John Cena. To the first point, okay, so he turns heel. What next? What then? What do you do after that? As you said, there's nobody for him to face, really.
If you are going to turn him heel, then obviously he's going to feud with The Rock. So you turn him heel at Survivor Series in Madison Square Garden, where
on The Rock,
where the crowd would hate him, okay, because
they're going to hate him. Yeah.
So Cena turns heel, and they build Cena up as this anti-hero, blah blah blah, all the way to WrestleMania. Then The Rock beats John Cena 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring at WrestleMania. And then he goes to shake Cena's hand and turns him back babyface.
All at the Survivor Series?
No.
At Mania?
At WrestleMania. Because you have 70,000 of The Rock's fans.
Miami.
And then The Rock goes to shake John Cena's hand and say, hey, you know what, hell of a fight, good job. And then he's passing the torch then to John Cena. But if you're going to turn John Cena heel, do it at Madison Square Garden at the Survivor Series.
Where they're going to hate him anyways.
Exactly. Because that will transcend well over TV.
Will a heel turn for John Cena if it were to happen? And again, I'm not convinced it will. Thus, overall, actually make him a face. What I mean by that is the 50% of the crowd that hates him now, will they then like him?
Absolutely. Because he'll come out with a different style T-shirt. A different look. What better heel T-shirt?
Rise above hate, you know.
That's a great heel T-shirt.
You know, the base for that whole thing, the new look of John Cena.
Wait, rewind a second, because I'm sure people are already commenting down below saying, you forgot about Zack Ryder. He's a babyface on Raw. Zack Ryder. Or they're going to post it on his Facebook page or something like that, you know.
Well, I mean, when you say the things that
when
you say.
When I'm honest, when I give my honest, heartfelt, true opinion, which other people agree with me about.
Monday night. Actually, before we talk about Monday night, we're talking about Survivor Series.
Survivor Series.
And if you're watching us here in the southeastern Wisconsin area, you can join us for the Survivor Series at no charge, free, on the largest television screen in the Midwest, some 30 feet wide, at the Horny Goat Hideaway.
Can you imagine seeing Alicia Fox on that screen?
How the hell did she get a win Friday night?
She is talented. And she beat Natalie Neidhart, one of the top wrestling divas in the world right now.
Maria Kanellis will be in attendance as well. You can meet Maria, get some great food and drink specials, watch the Survivor Series for free on the largest television screen in the Midwest, and meet me, all on November 20th at no charge at the Horny Goat Hideaway.
That's
all the
because
information.
I charge for an autograph.
All the information right now on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Pro Wrestling Report. And you can check that out there and join us, no charge at all, for that. And Blizzard Brawl 7 coming up soon, David Hero. You can also go right now and get those Blizzard Brawl packages, which include transportation to and from the event.
From the Horny Goat
Food
Hideaway.
And drink from the Horny Goat Hideaway as well. So it's you can make it a full-day event. And all that information right now on blizzardbrawl.com. Monday night, we're going to be back down at Karma Bar and Grill. Great food at Karma, by the way, for the Pro Wrestling Report during WWE
You
Raw.
had salad on your sandwich, didn't you?
It was coleslaw on my pulled pork sandwich.
Say that fast real quick.
That's this Monday night, 10 o'clock to midnight, live broadcast on 540 ESPN. And also we'll be there during WWE Raw. And that costume party this past Monday night was tremendous. Gumby with the win.
How does Gumby beat Eric Young?
You know, Gumby's standing here right now. You just can't see him.
I believe it. He's saying you can't see me.
That's this week's Pro Wrestling Report Primetime Television. We'll see you Monday night at Karma. And we'll also see you next week right here back on Primetime for that one. This is Damian Nelson saying thank you for tuning in.